I was at home with my girlfriend. Nothing but a casual night at home doing nothing out of the ordinary. We watched some movies, eat some food, and then I hopped on the game for an hour. But around half hour into it, my girlfriend taps me on the shoulder telling me that someone was at our gate. And I was confused. At our gate? Just to point out, we lived with a driveway which led to a gate, and I assumed that was what she was on about. So, I head on over to the window to have a look, and nobody was there. I just gave her that look, as if she was trying to pull a fast one. But then she gasps a little as she points to this man now standing in our back garden. I always imagined I would be a whole lot tougher when something like this would happen. But now that it was, I panicked more than staying calm. I asked whether we should go and confront the stranger in our garden. Of course, my partner said it would be a bad idea. But as the man started to walk around the side of the house, I opened up the stairs balcony door and shouted out to him, asking what he was doing, and to leave as I was calling the cops. I was trying to act as tough as possibly could, wanting to be the protector of my home. But the man looked at me and carried on walking around the side of the house. I knew the back door was in that direction, but I had no idea if that was where he was going. My girlfriend wanted to shut off all the lights and nestle down, hiding in the hopes they just go away. But something told me that this was something that needed to be dealt with, and wasn't going away as much as we both wanted it to. I kept the lights on for the most part, and then crept towards the back door, peeking into the darkened room, but I couldn't see him. Nobody was at the back door. So I stepped out onto the kitchen, again, curious but also wanting to act all tough. Then my girlfriend screams as she spots him standing at the back door. I jump and scramble to hide behind the wall again with my partner. I could see him waving through the glass, like some menacing psychopath. I had no idea what he wanted. At this point, I took a deep breath and stood out into the kitchen asking what the hell he wanted. He just laughed and continued to wave. I told him that the police were on the way and he had better leave. And just like that, he left. I rushed over to the back door and literally watched as he disappeared into the night. I went to go and unlock the door and to step out, but I was stopped. And it was probably for the best, as when we went up to the bedroom, after double checking all the locks and bluffing about calling the police, we wanted nothing more than to go to sleep. That was until, as I was closing the curtains in our bedroom, I spotted something. It was the man. He was clearly staring right back at me, and I froze, not wanting my girlfriend to know what I was seeing. So, I kept the curtains slightly open so I could keep a lookout the window now and again, but also panicking deep inside. Every 10 minutes I kept checking, whilst my girlfriend was telling me I should try and relax too. Eventually, she went to sleep, and I was beyond tired myself, literally on the verge of calling the police for real, when I got up again, hopefully for the last time, and spotted that he was no longer there. Honestly, I know I should have done more, but I ended up just falling asleep, and when the morning came, we went and bought cameras for the house and a driveway, and so far have not been in a situation like that again. But the fear and panic I felt when I still saw him as I was closing the curtains, as if he was testing to see if I was lying about the police, really sent shivers up my spine. They left us alone, but I know for a lot of people, that just isn't the case. Never wanting to be alone on special events like Easter and Pancake Day, etc., I found myself talking to a girl on a dating app in the hopes everything pans out for a nice Valentine's date. Surprisingly, it all worked. The girl I spoke to, her name was Rachel. She was 22 and pretty cute. I'll be honest, I was definitely the reacher here and she was the settler. But how we spoke, our personalities matched so well. And after plenty of phone calls and video calls, we had arranged to go out for Valentine's. Sadly, we couldn't get any restaurants due to everything being fully booked, way before we had even began speaking. The plan we had set out instead for each other was to go for a walk, grab some snacks, head on back to hers and cook some food, and watch some movies. It wasn't much, but for us, it was actually really nice. Everything went off perfectly. We had plenty of laughs, connected really well, and the night ended quite blissfully. On the way home, I had the biggest smile on my face ever, especially after hearing her wanting to see me again the next day. The walk home was around an hour long, and honestly, I did not mind it. I had noticed a few drunk people walking home, unable to hold their liquor, but I also spotted this one person seeming to be following me. I noticed they had the hood up, and the shadow hid their face pretty well. I assumed it was a guy, by their posture alone, but I couldn't be sure. I took a left, and noticed they'd done the same. So I crossed the road, and they did the same. I didn't want to think anything of this, but I didn't feel too comfortable now. So, I looped back on myself, even stopping briefly checking my phone as if I was lost, when in fact I knew exactly where I was going. Thing was, even looking back on myself and walking another 30 minutes without doing anything, I could still see this person following. I stopped and turned back, frightened, but knew I had to do something. They weren't there, and I was so confused. I saw them turn into the street I was on. I heard a noise in front of me, and then a slow turn back around, shakingly waiting to be frightened beyond belief. Relieved to find nothing there, I sighed when someone grabbed me on my shoulder from behind, and I jumped for my life, stumbling and stammering as I looked back and ran for her. I don't know if it was the same person or just some innocent stranger, and I know this isn't an insanely scary story, but that night did scare me from within. It's good to be home, kicking off my shoes and falling onto the sofa, randomly flicking through some awful TV. I had been away for a week with work, and being back home was just pure joy. I wish I could say I went to bed instead and just recovered. But I actually had decided to check over the CCTV I installed in my home to make sure everything had remained safe and secure. I also walked away a lot and had a trust problem with people. Scanning through it, I hadn't seen anything out of the unusual. It was actually getting to the point I was falling asleep and just watching nothing at all happen in my home. That was until I hit the 4th day. A woman came into view. She was in the living room, making her way into the kitchen. This stranger was rummaging through my food, eating and grabbing what she could, and then disappearing back upstairs out of sight. Just for reference, I only had cameras on the ground floor. I couldn't believe my eyes, so I quickly fast forward to the 5th day, and again she does the exact same thing. Although this time she grabs a knife and takes it with her. I'm getting a little uncomfortable now, as I scan a few hours further and see her come into frame once more. But this time she just sat on the sofa and watched TV. Part of me was furious this woman was in my home, making it look like it was hers. But the other part of me was truly terrified that this woman also had a knife with her. For the next 2 nights, she remained out of camera view. I sat in silence for a few minutes before I started to quietly look around my home, noticing that the knife was still gone. She must know I was home, as I was pretty loud. But no matter where I looked, she was nowhere to be seen. Maybe the sight of me returning scared her off. Now I do have an attic, but I have no ladders and no way of actually getting up there. So I would have no idea how she would manage it, as not even I could get up there, even with a chair. I had high ceilings too. I didn't see the point in calling the police, as there wasn't much to report. Just call them and tell some woman to eat my food and watch some TV, and I didn't want to waste their time. So I went to bed, but not to sleep, to wait. I knew not being in camera view for the past 2 days meant she would have to resurface again for more food or something else. 10 PM turned into 11. Midnight turned into 1 AM. And by this point, I was seriously considering turning off my phone and sleeping, when I heard movement. She was in my attic. I couldn't believe it. I fluffed my pillows up and made it look like I was sleeping in bed still. Door slightly opened, and I hid behind it ready to pounce if she did enter. Deep down, I was frightened for my life. Being so silent, I heard everything. Her opened up the latch, dropping down, and breathing as she came to my bedroom door entrance. She hadn't entered though. She just went down the stairs and a few minutes later came back up. Again, I could hear her heavy breath at my bedroom entrance for what I presumed just peeking in. She stayed like that for a few minutes before somehow getting back up into the attic and being silent again. I stayed awake for the rest of the night, and as soon as morning came, I called the police and stayed in the house waiting for them to arrive. When they eventually did, the woman was quickly apprehended, and I was greeted with a homeless woman who spat at me saying she saw me sleeping and wished she had cut me. I don't know if that was a threat to kill me, but I didn't say anything. The police had arrested her, and within a few weeks I moved back in with my family until I found a new home. When going back to collect my things, I was grateful I was lucky in my choices, but I wonder what could happen to those who aren't as fortunate.